Beats, Rhymes and Live podcast. I'm Shakira.
I'm Ash.
The one and only Riz.
Welcome back, guys. We've got no Gabby this week, but she's with us in spirit. And we've got a really random show where we don't actually know what we're going to talk about.
It does make for some of the best podcasts sometimes.
We literally have nothing to talk about.
We haven't planned, we haven't discussed, and we haven't actually spoken to each other.
Apart from this Brown album, which is like a 3-hour album. So
to be fair, if we genuinely cared about the sorry, that is so rude. I don't mean if we genuinely cared about. Oh damn! I'm doing it. That one was unintentional too. I didn't even realize I was doing it. But yeah, I mean, if we cared about the Chris Brown album that much, we could genuinely talk about it the whole show because it's that motherfucking long. But
how have you guys been anyway, generally?
Tired. I'm finally getting over my cold / cough / the plague. Getting my voice back, so that's all right. But yeah, I've been.
I'm not gonna lie though, that some of the feedback from the last episode.
Yeah, they was feeling your voice.
Yeah, I'm not being funny, guys, but saying, "Oh, Shakira sounds sexy now." Like, what are you guys trying to say? I don't always sound sexy. The fuck?
I can't comment on that.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah, had a little Eartha kickback. But yeah, it's been a very, I would say, long week, but I don't remember much of it in terms of, you know, when you've got a long week that's full of like uneventful things.
Yeah.
So generally, I've been in bed by like 10 o'clock.
Generally,
I'm fully developing into like a real old crop.
Yeah,
like,
you're a proper old bastard, right? Like, bare quiet all week, and then like he jumps into little WhatsApp debates and stuff, and then just disappears.
I'm not gonna lie, yeah. Like the WhatsApp, it got the better of me.
What had happened, Riz?
No, like obviously, because with my work schedule, yeah. So from end of August right through to like the middle of October, super busy, and then after that, it's like the dive off the cliff.
It's dead till like Jan, isn't it?
Super dead.
Yeah.
So literally, all I do at work is play Football Manager, and it's like there's only so much Football Manager one can play. So it's like I'll start little debates in the group chat or like share stupid things or make jokes at other people's expense, and it's like, you know, when you poke the devil for too long, the devil will bite back at you. And it was like this week it kind of bit me, and it's like, yeah, I had to remove myself.
I had to message him after. I was like, "You alright, mate?"
It's cool, yeah, but it's just like, no, like you're gone too far now, like in terms of like, you know, when you have that moment of clarity, it's like, what is this all about, really?
Yeah, why am I really being this dumb?
Yeah, so it's like, I had to take myself out. So apologies to the guys in the group chat still.
Wow.
I'll be back better than ever, baby.
Riz was wilding, yeah.
Do you know what
It wasn't even wilding. He was playing devil's advocate on something that didn't need to be.
It wasn't something that I necessarily disagreed with. Yeah, I agreed in part. I just wanted to know your approach. So basically, I'm not sure if you saw a post on Twitter of the woman or young lady who's a teacher. She was dressed in a Spider-Man outfit, and it was a Halloween costume that she wore to school. But in the post, it said something along the lines of, I'm super excited or something that I'll get to wear this again to school when she wore it to a party, a Halloween party.
The way she made it sound was, I didn't even think it was that deep at all. It was just, oh yeah, I wore this out on the weekend, I get to wear it to school too. Like, it's just 2 for 1. I'm not buying two outfits.
My kids are going to be super excited when I put the mask on. So someone in the group chat decided that,
oh wait, and I think to put it into context, this was a very curvy woman. So you know,
she's voluptuous.
Yeah.
So you can imagine like a skin tight Spider-Man, like accentuating certain curves and that. So someone asked the question in the group chat, would you report her as a parent? And my stance was, we can understand as men, yeah, like what her, like you would question her as an individual. However, when it comes to reporting her, what are you reporting her for?
Yeah.
Because like, we did a little bit of investigation, and we found out she wasn't the only person in costume.
Yeah.
So clearly it wasn't against school policy to wear costume to school for that particular day or whatever the event was. So what grounds on which are you supporting your report? And then obviously it just went a bit
It spiraled out of control.
So yeah, but yeah, shouts to them man. But
I'm not even gonna put
that
my
was probably
thoughts
the
on
most
that.
eventful thing on the whole week. Like, to be honest with you, for me, it's like I had some shit training on Thursday that I really didn't need to be at, and then yeah, like, it's just been a blur.
Fair enough.
It gave me plenty of time to listen to the whole Chris.
Yeah, I bet it did.
Twice as well.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, no, because I've come to a point in terms of I don't rush to listen to music now, so it's like I try to live with it for a little bit longer. So if I listen to it, I won't let that be my initial judgment. So I try to give things 2 or 3 listens, but with this, it's virtually impossible. On the way home on Thursday, there was traffic, so I got to listen to it like in its entirety.
You know what? There's a lot of songs in it I can't even stomach. Like, I think there's a period of songs between like tracks 9 to 17. That's probably the best period of the whole entire album, and even then, a lot of it does sound quite similar.
See,
But
this was my concern to begin with, is that Chris has already put the same song out quite a few times with different names, and I thought 45 tracks, I'm gonna hear the same song, and realistically it did feel like I was listening to one long song and I didn't make it all the way through. And my issue with that is because of how I am, because when I listen to an album, I'm sure I've said this before, is I like to appreciate the artistry, so I don't like to skip songs because I like to hear the transitions, because a lot of work goes into things like that. So I have to listen to the song through, and with this album it just felt like, although there are a few tracks where I was like, yeah, okay, cool, I could listen to this, like I could, but I wouldn't go out of my way, if I'm honest with you. Like, it feels like one long song. It feels like that same song that he's been bringing out for the past 4 years, and it annoys me. I was saying to Riz, it annoys me because he's talented, so why are you doing this? Like, why are you settling for this mediocre? This is like, it's just do something. Like,
this is the thing with him, is that I think Riz does it and I do it as well, is that because of what he's shown he's capable of and what he has done, you hold him to a higher standard. So to come out with a 45 track album, I'm not gonna lie, one of the first things I thought with this was that, is this like half of a Lost Tapes album or something? Because, so imagine this, to record 45 songs and actually put them all out. Most people that make albums, whether they whittle it down to 10, 13, depending on their work rate, can record anything from 20 to 40 songs.
250 songs sitting in his lap.
I can completely believe that. And I'm sure about 200 of them are a complete waste of time.
Let's have quality control. Let's think, yes, I made this, but does it really need to go out?
Well, like,
no.
Yeah. Or maybe like the actual album, maybe cut out all the filler, because there's a hell of a lot of filler in this album, and drop that as a mixtape or something.
I have a number of questions in terms of, obviously, like, in response to what you guys are saying. I agree in part, quality control for me is something that should be applied when you're looking at like a talent of his magnitude, in terms of less is more sometimes. And obviously being able to put out a cohesive project sometimes will mean that you have to sacrifice a lot of the music that you have made, but it just changes the whole way that, like, it's like, for me, there's 2 ways to look at it, in terms of, obviously, if you want to look at it as an album, or like we said with the Drake, it sounds like more of a playlist. In terms of that, the directions that he goes in certain parts. So it's like, are we seeing a change in the approach to the way that we consume albums, or is it something that we're gonna see like less of, but hearing, like, for instance, Drake with the More Life playlist, and we see this? Is it something that we kind of have to get accustomed to?
I hope not.
I don't think so. I think putting out 45 songs was just a ploy to get as many into the streaming charts as possible.
I thought that as well. I thought that it was an attempt to try and make his album
to do like what it's like what you said with Drake did with More Life, and then even although they didn't do it on purpose, Kreps and Conan with their project, pretty much every track of both projects are all charted, all charts. So I think that's what he was trying to do. It's like, right, if I put out 45 songs, so no matter how many sales I actually get in my first week, however many of these songs, at least 20 of them are probably going to be streamed a couple million times or whatever. So they're going to get into chart status. And
in regards to that, like, you see when you have a project of this length, how many, like, you see to count for one physical album sale, like, do you have to listen? I want to know what the percentage
I
can't remember what it is. It's like, I'm sure for one album it's something ridiculous, like however many thousands or a couple 100,000 listens that equates to one album download. It might.
But you see when it comes to that, like, it's rigging the numbers in the time. We talked about it on the streaming episode that we did like very early on. Like with 45 tracks, I could literally just repeat the same 10 tracks, but it counts as a physical album. So it's not necessarily a fair reflection of the album in its entirety.
It's not, but that's exactly why when all of these artists are dropping their shit, they're like, stream it, leave it on repeat. Like, just play it. Like, even if you're not listening to it, just leave it on in the background or something. And that's the approach they're taking to it. Because he put up a post saying like, oh, I found out that the RIAA will only count for 3 days of sales, even though he drops at the beginning of the week. So he was like, oh, I don't really care or whatever, but you could tell he was bothered because then you're not getting that first week sell. Because I had a Twitter conversation with a couple of people, like while he was in there, and a couple of other people, and everyone was debating about it and was like, oh, like, you know, it backfired, it all flopped. And it's like, well, no, not really, because even if he doesn't get, I don't know, 500,000 or whatever it is first week sales, if you've even got 15 or 20 of those songs constantly streaming for the next few weeks, he's laughing.
He's laughing, My thing with it, in terms of obviously looking at the culture and how obviously moving forward we might see more of this in terms of, like, you see like classic albums like Thriller and stuff like that. Like you tend to find that albums where you kind of lock in with maybe one or two producers kind of was the format that we were used to.
Definitely.
Whereas I'm looking at the production credits on this.
It's all over the place.
Mad.
I think A1's probably got the most.
So obviously you got A1, Cardiac. There's a Boy Wonder track on here. But generally A1 is kind of seems like he's behind a lot.
Which something they mentioned on the Budding podcast as well is that Hitmaker's probably in there as well. Apparently he's only got one credit, but him and A1 are production partners, so there's quite a likelihood he was involved in some
for me
stuff.
It was always going to be a case of like a lot of variance in terms of the sound, but even though we say that, like, don't you feel that the album kind of sounds like one long song?
It does. It's like one long song that's gone through a few different phases. Like you've got the bits where it goes to more of, it's not DJ Mustard, but it's more of that sound. You got the whole the Caribbean.
Don't do this to me. Oh my god!
When he's talking with the patois accent.
Oh my god!
I was like, what?
I want it dead. I want that dead. I want it to die. Please, let's bury it. Let's drown it. Let's do something. Stop it. Stop.
When I saw that, I was like, seriously?
The Kevin Little track did my head in. Like,
same.
What are you doing? What? There was no need. You see, this is what I mean. Why not leave that off? It could have been a 44th track album. Like, what the fuck? Why did you need to do that?
And I think as well, this thing now of redoing songs from the 90s and the 2000s. Like,
let's kill it.
I hate what Tory Lanez does to it. I like what Ty Dolla $ign does to it for the most part, but just in general, I feel like they're overdoing it. Like, for me, I think
it's like you said, innit? We're gonna criticize it, but we just have to get used to it.
No,
because that's what we grew up with. They wasn't sampling stuff from the 50s or the 60s. A lot of the time, they were sampling stuff from the 70s and 80s.
No, I don't have a problem with that's what you're doing, but do it in a good way. they're just.
I don't even call this sampling at this point. I don't call it sampling. Songs, really. Like sampling's one thing. I like samples. Like samples actually. I'm like, oh wait, like that makes me happy. Sampling makes me happy. But what they're doing is actually something different, and it is. I feel like it's disrespectful.
On there as well.
Huh? Who?
EY.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, like the album. You have all the poppy stuff. Like, I get what he tried to do. He tried to cater for everybody. And then Lee had a point on Twitter as well saying, like, I feel like this is the direction things are going. So if you've got all these songs, they realise that people are always going to make their own albums out of whatever you release.
Yeah, you just take out what you don't like.
So he was like, if there's 45 songs, you might find 15 songs that are for you. Not for anybody else, but specifically for you and your vibe. Which, I get the idea. And if that's what he's gone for, then cool, innit? Personally, I think it's a waste of time.
You know what they say, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
It's another conversation that was quite prevalent on the timeline in terms of, one, is this his best album? I don't personally agree.
No.
I look at Fame as probably his most complete project. And then obviously his first album is probably the one that people will hark back to.
I was going to say, I actually don't fully like any Chris Brown album bar his first.
I liked Fame.
Like, as in
Fame was a good album. It's not my favourite, but it's a good album. I
think the only problem that you've got with his first album is that some of it would sound really dated now. That's it. But then
so it's nostalgia really
it can be more nostalgia sometimes.
But as a project at the time that it came out, it was great
and
stuff.
I think because you had a lot of the, I wouldn't even say traditional, but a lot of the core R&B producers and songwriters were heavily involved with that project. So you still had Darkchild, Brian Michael Cox and those kind of guys. And as you fast forward to now, they're not really about. No. Like they still make music and they still produce them, but they're not prevalent. They're not on hit singles and stuff because everything's driven now, especially in R&B, by the more mustard kind of sound.
The club banger.
Yeah, which is cool. You can do that, but not everything has to be in that vein. That's my thing. But overall, I think I flicked through everything 2 or 3 times. I saved about 13 or 14 tracks, and then I listened back to them.
Can I give you my edited version
of the album? Yeah. Go on.
Start with tempo.
Yeah, I like tempo.
Sip. Basically, track 9 through to like
the real R&B section. I know.
I'm not mad at the party track with Usher. You need one of those on the album.
I'm mad at that because I'm fed up with Usher doing that to us.
That's a whole nother debate. We get rid of the Sensei track. I'm not really here for that.
Yeah, that's out of here.
I
don't mind
No
it.
Exit in terms of that. You see, like when you listen to an R&B album, it's good to have like a more strings.
Yeah,
like, it breaks it up a little bit, especially if you're gonna have a project of this length.
Yeah,
I feel you need one of, and Rihanna's quite good at that type of vibe in terms of it can transition well into the other side of the charts in terms of. You could put that out as a B-side, and
what was it? One track that stuck with me, but I just need to delete one person's part. Is Handle It. If you take Lil Yachty off that track, then that's like it's fire. I was listening to it again this morning, and like Dej Loaf.
I like that song.
Thing. I actually really like the song, but Lil Yachty, he ruins the whole thing. I like
In My Bed. I like To My Bed. I like To My Bed.
Yeah, I've got that on my list as well.
And Hope You Do.
Basically up until about, I'd say, because it's described as 2 discs.
Yeah, it's described as 2 discs. They didn't do that initially, and then after it was released, it's like Chris Brown's double album.
About up to about track 6 on the second disc, then it starts getting a bit blurry again after that. And I like Yellow Tape. It was a nice.
Yeah, I actually got.
I don't think I've heard that yet.
Yellow Tape is right at the end of the album. It's actually classed as a bonus track. It's I think it's actually supposed to be 40 tracks, and the last 4 or 5 are bonus.
I haven't got that far.
But yeah,
understandable.
So far, he's meant to have done around 50,000 units for the 3 days that it was on. So for Tuesday.
Well, considering
50,000 units for 3 days.
Yeah.
For someone of his magnitude, that's shit.
It was
especially really given how many tracks are on the album, bro. Yeah. Even if that means people are not listening to it the whole way through.
50,000 units. Wow.
For Chris Brown, that's
It's poor.
This is going to sound really rude, yeah, but 50,000 units is like a Styles P when he went independent release.
But like I said, innit, it's probably good. We're going to have to give it a full week in the charts to give a full
and also
reflection.
the aim clearly wasn't, well, I think they partially aimed at first week, but in general I think it was like, let's just get into the charts and stay there.
Yeah.
So they're taking a long grind over first 2 weeks album sales.
Fair enough.
Another conversation that we can have today in terms of like just looking at Chris Brown, he's been here for a while now, but I'll bring that up at a later point. Was there any other projects that you guys thought stood out this week?
I haven't listened to anything.
There's actually a few projects. One sec.
I listened to the Big Crit project.
I listened to it. I didn't like it. The tracks that stuck out are really good, but I didn't like the album.
Like in terms of, I'm very hit and miss over Big Crit. Like there's a lot of debate over whether or not he is like one of the underrated artists.
I think the problem with him, which again I always refer to him because it's my favourite one, but on the Budden podcast they talked a lot about that, is that he never had any real support at Def Jam. It was only Sha Money, and then once he left, he got fucked over. So basically he self-produced everything, which he is a decent producer and stuff.
That stands out on this project.
Yeah, but I think he's a really good rapper. He's got that. He sounds like he should have been in that Dungeon Family era of that initial outbreak of rap from Atlanta. And so I like the way he sounds on every track in general, but I feel like some of the way some of the songs are constructed and then produced overall, I'm like, because I think literally off the album, it's quite a big album. I only saved maybe 5 or 6 tracks.
There's tracks where he's featured. I don't think I could listen to a Big Crit song by himself. Like, that's no disrespect to his
feature verses are hard though.
But with him in general, like he has one of those, like his cadence, although he's very like South, like in terms of he sounds like exactly what he is. He's like a Southern hip hop.
Yeah, he's got a proper thick South accent, like T.I.
Yes, but in his cadence, he doesn't really project that in terms of, and as well, like we've come to kind of associate that type of rap with the heavy bass.
Yeah.
His is more soul samples.
Yeah,
and it's an interesting like marriage of the two, but I just don't particularly think that. Like stylistically, there's a lot that he can kind of work on in terms of he does try to rap and use a lot of like wordplay and stuff, but like a lot of the Southern, like we like their stuff to kind of be dumbed down because you already have that whole, it's like a language barrier. We already have that to go through.
Do you know, it reminds me of when it was the Hip Hop Others and T.I. did Big Daddy Kane. Everyone was like, what the fuck is he saying?
We already have that as an issue. Like for me, I think I'm quite averse on trying to like
when we're translating.
So, but and I think that's where I think he will struggle to make that crossover because I don't think he needs to make that crossover. I think he should just stick to what he was doing before he went to Def Jam and have your vein, stick to your crowd and just do what you do well and just do that. But I've got 6 tracks off the album that I really like. Track with
it's a banger. Yeah,
I like the track with Sleepy Brown and CeeLo.
Yep, Get Up to Come Down. I got that. Aux chords. I went for Getaway as well, and then Mixed Messages and Everlasting.
Did you like the track with Jill Scott? I didn't.
No, I didn't like it.
I didn't dig it.
I listened to it twice. I was like, a Jill Scott song I don't like.
Yeah, I didn't. It just didn't resonate with me. And Price of Fame for me is the standout. On this project. Moving on swiftly.
2 projects. I'll only cover them very briefly. Marie Dahlstrom, she's got an EP called 9 out, and it's like 6 or 7 songs, and she is she's on a podcast with Emma V, Laura Mish, and I think Ruby Wood, and they all kind of work with each other on and off and have all done singles, or Tom Mish has produced for her, she's featured on other stuff. So there's that whole little kind of neo soul R&B scene, I said, that's kind of been bubbling up under in London for the last couple of years. She spotted that. And her project is very, very good. I think there's only like maybe one song that I feel like maybe somebody tried to go a bit too R&B with it, or maybe a bit too soulful, like it's like she stepped out of her lane just a little bit. But that's a really, really good project. I've been rinsing that. And then the other one, which actually T put me onto, is someone called Snow Allegra.
I haven't listened to that fully yet, but the intro's fire.
Intro is like, it's one of the best intros I've heard in recent years. But the album's called Feels, and she's got interesting style. She's got like a really strong voice, but it's quite smooth as well. But she goes from like the intro's really, really soulful, and it has that kind of vibe for a while, to going like full R&B. And then like there's a couple of tracks where it's like I don't want to say Amy Winehouse, but I want to say more jazz influence, that kind of, that vein of music.
I like that.
Overall, it's a really good project. Like I think when I first put it on, Snow Allegra. N-O-E. Yeah, and then it's AALEGRA. But I'm really feeling that album. And then, to be honest, there's been a bunch of projects, but they're the only ones. Oh, and actually, Scrap's album is hard.
I
started listening to that
because we haven't covered any UK stuff, but Scrap's different cloth. You know, when you got to a level of like whatever he puts out, I'll always listen to. Like I like Scraps a lot in terms of like he's like my new gigs in terms of anything that he puts out.
Yeah, you're going to,
I don't
innit?
really
Like,
care. I'm just gonna listen to it and I'll enjoy it. Like in terms of this album doesn't have, I would say, generally as much bangers as the previous album,
but it's a very consistent project.
Very consistent, and you know what you're gonna get from Scraps. Generally, so like.
It's like when people pull up the whole Scraps or Nines thing. It's like with Nines, it's more punchline based. So I know I'd prefer to hear that. But his flow isn't as tight as Scraps. He still sounds lazy sometimes or offbeat sometimes, where you can see Scraps has actually perfected what he does. So it's the same thing. Whatever he does, I will listen to it. 100%.
And even if, like, you see when you're listening to Scraps here, which is interesting for me, like he sounds on certain parts of certain songs here where he's gonna fall out of pocket.
Yeah, but
he doesn't. He just pulls it like on the outro, like of the album. There's a part where I'm thinking, this doesn't sound.
Yeah, there's like a bar where it's like a bar or two where it sounds like it's coming out.
Then he pulls it right back, and I think that's one of the things that I've kind of grown to love about him, like as a rapper from the UK as well. Yeah. He tries to do different things on this album in terms of he tries to make more of a girl.
Yeah, he's gone down on a few things, which knowing Scraps, you're just like, really?
Cool. It made me feel a bit awkward. It made me feel a bit awkward.
What, Scraps can't make tunes for the ladies?
It was a bit like, what are you doing?
And you know what it is?
This is uncomfortable.
It's because he's got that monotone sound and the accent, like, you just don't expect it.
No, I got time for Scraps.
I'm here for it. And you know what? Standout feature on the album, well, two. Chip's verse on High Spec was cold.
He went nuts.
Yeah, I was like,
he went nuts.
I rewinded it after that 30 seconds.
He actually went stupid on that. I was like, oh, Chip.
You know those ones where, like, after Chip's verse, I was like, Scraps needs to come hard, man.
My thing is, but Chip has that ability to do that to anyone. Like, he will feature with. But I think as an overall outlook in terms of, it was good to see in terms of, even with the video, I haven't watched it yet. But
I haven't watched it, but I'm happy they're pushing that as a track. Like,
and last but not least on the UK front, Dave dropped his
How I Met My Ex.
No, the project's called
Game Over. Yeah,
Game Over.
Sorry. I've listened to 2 tracks off of it just because everyone was talking about them on the timeline.
I think I've only listened to the How I Met My Ex thing.
I'm not gonna lie, that certain feels with that one.
Do you know what? I didn't even catch the feels. I was listening to it and I was like, everyone's like proper going on.
I felt like it was overrated. I'm so sorry.
No, like in terms of like, I'm not gonna lie. Like I've had certain times where it's like, you know, when you don't necessarily know how to put certain things into words, and it's like, as a dude, we're not encouraged to talk about certain elements of what
I hear that.
Share emotions or feelings or anything. Yeah.
And I feel it was good, kind of, because he's a young lad as well.
Yeah.
19, which is
so for him to be able to articulate himself musically in such a mature way, and have obviously it's the song's called How I Met My Ex,
Yeah.
so it's obviously something that's not current.
Yeah.
And him retrospectively being able to express himself with such clarity.
And only within the last year and a bit as well, because he said he was 18.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel it just shows his diversity, and again, like, harping back to the whole clarity sound, it's like, you know, in an era where everything is like so aggressive, and he's got a very laid back style that I feel bodes well for him.
Yeah.
I think he's very laid back, but everything he says cuts through whatever he's on. Because for me, like, I'll be honest, I never bought into the hype around him, AJ Tracy and a few other artists.
See, with him, I've always just felt like he's really talented.
He is talented,
but I just don't.
I've just never made an effort to really listen to his shit. When I have, I've been like, oh, okay, actually, this is quite good.
Yeah.
But because he was so hyped up for however long, I was like, you know, I'll just get to it when I get to it. There's plenty of other music out there.
And I like the song with Mars Stack as well.
Yeah. Do you know, I watched the video yesterday. And what Dave does, but I just don't like Mo Stacks. Like, I'm not gonna
What? You ain't got no time for
I ain't got the time for Mo, man. What I've heard anyway.
I like Mo. He's hilarious. Like, in terms of the comedy element, he definitely brings that.
Yeah.
And high energy. But yeah, there's the last track on it as well. Is quite another introspective. I just generally like introspective music.
Yeah.
You can kind of look at things and analyze, and I think it's it's called my 90th birthday or something like that. But yeah, that kind of wraps up that little section of the podcast. So look out for those projects. Anything coming up this week that we should kind of we drop on Tuesday? Is there anything scheduled for?
Do you know what? An album literally just dropped yesterday. I haven't even listened to it yet. Problem, his album dropped from Problem from the West Coast, which I don't know. They always say he's Terrace Martin's brother, but I don't actually know if he is. But he's always done a lot of stuff with people over that side, and he's done a lot of work with Ninth Wonder and Jamla and all of that people, and he's got quite a diverse style. But his album just dropped, and that was led off by a Ninth Wonder single. The album's called Selfish. I think it's only like 9 or 10 tracks, but that I would imagine would be pretty good, but I haven't been able to listen to it just yet, between fucking Chris Brown and everyone else. But
just Chris Brown is enough.
It's Chris Brown. Really, it's just Chris Brown.
Chris Brown
trying to take away,
taking over our lives.
Before we drop next time, obviously, we should have seen an Eminem release.
I'm not gonna lie to you. In 2017, I don't have no time for an Eminem album, because he'll probably sit there and do something like Rap God again and remind everyone, look, I can really rap. And then I think the rest of it is going to be all over the place.
You need to start considering me. Think about me. Shh.
Like, sometimes just why not? Just
sit in the studio. Just sit.
I'm not with it at all. I've got zero interest. Like.
So that kind of covers up the whole Eminem. Like, in 2000, I agree.
If he matured, then I wouldn't mind.
Do you know what?
But he has not matured. Like, we're too old now for that childishness. Like, it's different now.
Even
I just can't.
The freestyle. That's an awfully hot coffee pot. Like, no, I'm good. I'm alright.
The thing is, technically, M is such a sick rapper, but it's like, musically, what you're putting out, dude, nobody wants to, not nobody, people do.
Yeah, millions of people still do.
Me, I don't want to.
I don't want to.
I don't want to hear it.
Like,
I don't care
if you
anymore.
tell me Wrice is coming out of another album, 100%.
Oh yeah.
As well, we didn't get to touch on, like, do you feel the same way about Wu-Tang in 2017?
No, but
this is hurting me. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this.
But you know what the difference is? I think because Wu-Tang as a collective been putting out subpar albums for years, that to hear what they did on this is actually quite refreshing. It's like they didn't try too hard. Mathematics went to like old school Wu type beats. The features they had was like Redman's on like 3 tracks and a couple others. They kept it like real hip hop. I'm not going to sit there and say it's an amazing album or anything, because it's not. But considering what they have done as a group, it's a huge step up. Yeah, so I'm actually pleasantly surprised with what they put out. Like, and in terms of individual members, if Ghost puts out a project, I'm listening to it. If Ray puts out a project, I'm listening to it. And
Don't
then
look
after
at me,
that,
Ross.
it kind of drops off a hill.
Would you like to chime in?
They're ruining my childhood. What's to them as an
Oh, I wasn't happy.
Wasn't?
I wasn't. I didn't expect loads. Yeah, I didn't expect loads. But I would have liked for them to. I would have liked to be shocked. Like shit. Then I should have stepped my expectations up. And I wasn't. But it. Good job. good job, Woo.
Hey.
Good job, Woo. Do you know what it is? I have a lot of love and passion for Woo in it. So when they put stuff out that isn't to the standards that I hold them at, which maybe I should drop. I should probably lower my standards
really
at this point.
Drop your expectations because Wu-Tang as a collective probably haven't made a good album since Forever. Yeah, Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's 10 years.
That's longer than 10 years. 97.
What does it? Oh shit! Is it 97?
Yeah, it's 20 years.
Hey, because Forever was a double album, wasn't it?
Fucking hell.
That's 20 years ago.
There you go. And they haven't made a good album as a collective since. The solo artists have made some great albums in that period of time.
But see, that's the point. So, like, the talent's there. The skills are there.
I'll be
Put it
honest with
together.
I
together.
think the next project, because there will be a next project.
There should.
I think the next project will probably be the best that they would have put out since Forever. And the only reason I say that is because what was supposed to happen after A Better Tomorrow, you know, when everybody was kicking off, Raycon was talking about money, Ghost said the music was whack, etc, etc. RZA said Ghost was going to be in charge of the next project, because obviously Ghost is the most active, and that was the point they made, is that, look, you're still really in this music shit, you're still dropping mixtapes, albums, doing features, where the rest of us are kind of sat back a bit, and then Ray's probably the next most active. So they were like, you're going to kind of be in charge of it. Obviously that didn't happen this time round. It was like Mathematics, that was it. Mathematics was supposed to do a joint album with Meth,
yeah.
And then people started hearing about it and they got hyped up and everybody got involved. I think if Ghost leads the direction on the next project, because let's be honest, we're going to hear Wu albums until they're dead. Like somehow, some way they're going to keep putting shit out.
Literally Wu forever.
So so I think if Ghost is in charge of it next time, he's probably going to be like, alright, this is us, this ain't me, this ain't Meth, this ain't Ray, this is like Wu. We need Wu-Tang beats. We don't need fresh shit, new shit, we just need this style. And I think as well, what happens is that they get back to that old form of competing, because obviously when we started out, they were fully like, they were basically beefing in the studio to get onto a track. It's like, no, your shit's whack, my verse is better, okay, let me come back and rewrite it. And that's why they always had so much aggression in what they did, which has obviously been lost over the years, but they still have a competitive element.
Just to kind of wrap that up, so like there's something that for me it's been bothering me for a little while now. I don't want to sound like negative Nancy, so to speak, but
you
really?
Go on.
Why change the habit of a lifetime?
Chris Brown is obviously like revered as one of the most talented individuals that we have in the, I won't even say music, entertainment industry. Going back a few generations, how would you say like today's artists, obviously sales aside, obviously mash up against the previous eras?
They don't.
It's easy to dismiss, and I get that, but this is something that obviously less informed people I feel need a bit of education in terms of like Chris Brown. We can't take his talent, his skill set away from him.
No, you're going to make me really elaborate now, aren't you? Okay.
But people will always immediately compare him to the likes of Michael Jackson, and I just want us to have an informed discussion.
To me, the comparison comes from the fact that Chris is heavily influenced by MJ. Do you get what I mean? So it's like Chris, talent-wise, no disrespect for him, isn't close to MJ.
He ain't got a shade.
Nobody, but then nobody's close to MJ.
I'm not gonna lie. If you're gonna,
no, this is what the general consensus. Because I've had this discussion with a number of people, and it's like people always immediately say, "Well, that's not necessarily true. You have Prince, you have Beyonce."
Yeah, well, okay, Whitney. For me, I preferred Prince as in musically. Not even prefer Prince musically. I can't say that. That's not true. Because I love MJ, but I think that Prince was more of a musician and was probably a greater musician in that sense than MJ. Musician. If we're talking entertainment as a whole, MJ was a greater entertainer, if you get what I mean. So they both had a vast amount of talent, but the way that they set levels, and maybe it is because it was it was back then. Do you know what I mean? So maybe if they were out now, but they helped us get to certain places. They took music in certain directions. They led it, and they left a mark on music so that you can say this sounds like an MJ type thing. This sounds like a Prince type thing. Whereas there's no
leaders now.
Beyonce is a leader.
She's not though, because she hasn't set out. This is a lane that Beyonce is in. This is what Beyonce does, and this is what she hasn't coined. She hasn't coined a type of music. Beyonce. She's a talented performer and a talented musician, a talented singer. She is amazing, but she hasn't had the same impact on music, on popular culture. She's had an impact. On performances, she's had an impact.
She looks amazing as a performer. Like she is an amazing artist.
She is, but she hasn't had the same impact. But nobody has, and it's not even that I particularly say, I expect that of anyone realistically, because it's hard to do. It's hard to do.
We mentioned Usher earlier.
I've got a couple points.
Usher kind of fall in your
what you're saying now, the whole MJ Chris Brown thing. Realistically, Chris Brown is only compared to MJ because some of his music is clearly influenced by MJ. Yeah. But because he dances too. If Chris Brown didn't dance about like he did, there wouldn't be an MJ comparison.
Chris Brown is an amazing dancer.
He is. Personally, if you're going to do a comparison, the comparison should be closer to Chris Brown and Usher.
Yeah.
Because that's more realistic. Usher was always heralded, especially dance-wise, as kind of like the next coming of MJ almost. He was extremely smooth with it. Like, nobody can take that away from him, innit? So I think that if there's going to be a comparison of that kind of level, it has to be Chris Brown to Usher. And then the worst thing is that where Usher's career went after Confessions, it's just like, who gives a fuck? I don't care.
It surprises me that Bruno Mars is left out of that conversation, though. That
Bruno Mars is sick, but I think the only reason why he's not even left out, but the reason why he doesn't come to mind first of all, is because Bruno Mars's early stuff is pop. So you think pop, you're not thinking R&B, where Michael Jackson went from R&B to soul into pop. So they started off on more of a foundation that we be with. Like, when I first heard Bruno Mars, I was just like, oh, whatever. But then when I actually heard a couple songs I liked, I was like, okay, like, this dude's got some soul in it. And then I actually went and started listening to his stuff. And I was like, all right, I get it. Where I think outside of him, you have a number of people that have probably been huge pop stars, but they're not like, I wouldn't say to myself, oh, you're amazing.
I think that we should, not even we, because I don't do it. I think that the next Michael Jackson thing, it needs to stop. Let's let artists be good at what they do, rather than trying to make them Michael Jackson. No one's going to be Michael Jackson.
If someone's reminiscent of a sound, that's perfectly fine. Because no matter what you hear, unless you hear something that is 100% new and there's not one element you've heard anywhere else, your natural reaction is to be like, okay, so this sounds like a little bit D'Angelo.
That's
this sounds
cool,
a little
though.
bit like this.
To say that it sounds like, but to say that this is the next so person, it's got to stop. Yeah. Let's let artists, and I think that it kind of boxes artists into a space where they 100%. Didn't necessarily have to be.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because it's like, so we see that in terms of today, like, who do you see as, like, say, let's, obviously musically, I think we've come to that. Music isn't necessarily made with our age group in mind.
No, it's not. For the most part.
So
there's a lot of it there, but yeah.
Looking back on the past 10 years, who would you say was the premier, like, take Beyonce for the females, who would you say is the premier male artist from the last?
I don't think there is one that stands out, and I don't even mean that in a bad way, because if I think about male artists, whether it's R&B or hip hop or just
like I said, and again, this is obviously taking sales out of the equation.
Yeah, like even the sales out. I don't think there's somebody.
I guess it would end up being Chris Brown then.
It probably would be Chris Brown. But to me, that says, again, it's going to sound so much more negative than it means to be. But it's almost like the best of a bad bunch, because it's like
he's had like decent running mates in terms of Usher, Justin Timberlake, Neo had.
He's been the most consistent. But at this point, this is what I'm saying. He's been consistently mediocre, though.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
So, but if Chris Brown, like, I want to remedy, like, I don't just like questioning. Sometimes you got to find answers to your own questions.
Go on.
So, hypothetically speaking, yeah, if Chris Brown was hypothetically to get in the studio with a producer of the likes of Teddy Riley, or I don't know who else.
There's you can sit there and name however many producers or
just a producer that's going to give him a standout body of work. Yeah, would we then look at it more decisively? We would, because obviously then we have the musical that it's going back to the whole, and we have this debate quite regularly. Messi versus his
cohort, Cristiano
Ronaldo, in terms of when you're looking at someone's resume, they need to have a certain number of things ticked off in order to meet the criteria to be in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that is what Chris at this point is missing to separate himself from the rest. Usher has Confessions. Justin Timberlake, you can argue that all three of his albums are probably that.
I wouldn't personally, but it can be argued. Yeah, definitely.
So if he does kind of,
Chris Brown hasn't got that.
Doesn't have that. So I feel that's where people kind of bunch him in. Where for me, he's by far and away ahead of.
He is
the rest of the.
But the music doesn't.
His musical output doesn't represent that.
And I think that's the problem with a lot of our artists in this day and age. Like, is that you can see certain people are extremely talented, but. And I can't even say like what they put out as whack, but as in what they choose to put out, what either what they feel or what the label feel is a project that should be out isn't necessarily reflective of them.
But I think it's also because there's this desire to just put out party tracks. So it's like everything doesn't have to be a party track.
Well, that's the thing.
For me, it should be, let's have. Yes, there should be party tracks. There should be, but then there should be a balance. Like. And I feel like there's no balance.
See, I'm not mad at the party tracks, but then it needs to be to a lower level. You can't have an album full of party tracks. So, like, to use the example, so Confessions had Yeah and Caught Up. I've never really liked Yeah, but it was a club banger. Mm-hmm. Caught Up was like a level down from that. It got played a lot in the clubs. But they were the two tracks that I was like, okay, this is the club shit, and now the rest of it I'm going to give you real R&B. Like, so... Every album since whenever has always had to have a lead single or two. Fine, nowadays, a lot of albums end up dropping 3 to 5 singles before the album even drops. So it's definitely changed, but it's do you know what? It leads around to that discussion that we had before, which I don't believe, but is that album dead? Because people are pushing a singles driven market, and it goes back to something 50 said. Obviously everyone said 50's dead, he's dried up, he's a flop, blah 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 blah, but he said it about maybe 6-7 years ago when he was like, he goes for someone like me, he goes, the album's dead. Mm-hmm. Because of what I do. So he was like, I know instead that I can do mixtapes or singles, and he goes, I can constantly get gold and platinum selling singles eventually, because I will go out there and I will get a Jeremiah on my single, or a Kendrick or whoever, and I can do that. And he had that run where people said he was dead, but his singles were selling ridiculous numbers all throughout this period of time. And then I'm not even being funny, like, look at Power. Big Rich Sam was a single.
It was a single.
And nobody gave a fuck. And then when it was the intro to Power, now everybody loves it. And obviously it's been streamed and bought millions of times since.
Placement is a big thing nowadays as well, in terms of, like, if people can immediately attach your music to something else, obviously people are going to gravitate towards it a lot.
Yeah. It's remembering it.
But generally, like, albums are what I kind of like, let's save the album, guys.
Yeah, no, I'm all for the album. Like, I want to be able to sit down and take in an album beginning to end. And it doesn't even, like, it's cool if it's got a story or if it's a concept album, all that's cool, but I want to be able to go on a journey with an album. And I know it sounds mad cheesy, but it's true. Like, I want to be able to feel the ups and downs.
That's why I like to listen to it all the way through, and I don't want to skip, and I don't want to, like, I like that. I like albums taking me places and feeling like I'm on the journey and I'm actually there. It's like the transitions, like that's all exciting to me. But maybe we are
Fossils.
We are.
Maybe we need to actually come to
this newer way of thinking.
I don't want to, though. That's the thing.
You know, it leads me to 2 points. So I had a brief discussion on Twitter about the Chris Brown album, and it was like, so like 45 tracks, how many tracks do you like? And I was like, look, if I find 10 tracks I like out of 45, I'm going to be happy. And it's like, but that's dead though. That's only 10 out of 45. And I was like, but I realised, apart from certain artists, my expectation is for an album that someone's trying to push to sell in this climate. If it's an average 10 to 12 track album, I'm happy if I get 4 tracks I really, really like. And that's my expectation. So I was like, you flip that to 45 tracks, if I get between 10 and 13, I'm going to be happy because I don't expect anything more from that. Yeah. And it's sad, but it's also very true because we've got such an oversaturation of music now. And that
is well, obviously the way that we consume music is a lot
it's very different
in terms of
because of streaming and online services in general, where before you actually had to go and buy your CD, tape, vinyl, whatever, and sit there and listen to it. It wasn't, oh shit, I went and bought 10 albums today or whatever, because it wasn't really feasible for most.
You just flip through and then whatever you like, and then whatever you don't like, you forget it in it.
Yeah, that's it. It's gone.
So it's an interesting one moving forward. I generally hope that we still have what we would see as the conventional album and that approach to making music. But if it means that obviously artists are going to find new and inventive ways to kind of obviously make money in an age where obviously it's difficult to make money off of music solely, then we can't really be mad.
No, I'm not mad at it. I mean, the other thing is, in terms of the album, independent artists are making albums. They don't so there's an interview that I'll send you guys. Actually, I'll need to put it in the link to this. So Brent Faiyaz, everyone's been going on about his album, like, he's a new soul sensation, it's the best album to come out this year, everything is getting hyped up. But there was an interview. No, there's honestly a lot of these artists are really, really bigging him up. Like, I think I like the album. I listened to it after our discussion last time, but I don't think it's like some masterpiece, which is sorry, that's what it's being heralded as, when I don't think that's the case. But there was an interview of his manager on DJ Booth, and they basically said how when he was coming out and they were building up their tours, they basically set up 2 companies and they self-funded all of their early tours on the first project. And he said they had meetings with LA Reid at Epic, they had meetings at Interscope, Def Jam, etc. All of these people, and everyone wanted to tie them down to long-term contracts, give them, I think, 12 or 13% of the returns on the projects. And he was going and negotiating and saying, look, this is what I want in order for you guys to take the album. So he was like, we don't want a long-term deal, take the album, but then we want 18% instead of 13%, and we can work with that because we know it's going to stream however much, and we're going to do tours off the back of it. Everybody rejected his deals, and he said he then went back and said, okay, I'll tell you what, if you give me 150 grand up front, you can have the whole first album. Like, we'll negotiate on masters or whatever, but this whole album will be under your label. That's it, nothing else. Like, and then they rejected that too. So LA Reid rejected it, Interscope rejected it, Def Jam rejected it. Every big label you can think of all rejected the deal because they wanted to tie him down to a long 5-year contract or a free album deal or whatever. So the manager said no to everything, did it all by themselves, and they said they were broke doing it. They said when I think one of the videos that's come out off this album, they self-funded it, and he was like, yeah, there were some people that couldn't come because we couldn't afford to fly them out. Like, but he goes, now off the back of this, because they've done it, he goes, we've got all the bargaining power now. So he goes, we probably won't even sign to a record label because the money's coming directly to us. But when you read through the article, you see how shady it can be, because they're talking about this guy. I think when he performed for LA Reid, he goes, that's the only time we've done it, in the sense of we won't do this whole going to our office and sing and shit, you know, like the New Edition film. Like, and he was like, that's the only time we did it. And like they were like, yeah, he's amazing, he's the next guy. But they're refusing to put up the money, at least up front. They want to have ownership of the artist. It's
that whole bet on yourself thing,
yeah.
So it's like sometimes you just kind of got to bite the bullet. And
some people it works for. So like Stormzy's been independent the whole time, but his whole thing was like, if you want to be independent, be independent. If you want to sign to a label, sign to a label. It's about what works for you. And I think for someone like him, he grafted, and he's obviously got a really good team.
Amazing team.
Like if you don't have that, then you're not really gonna get anywhere.
Yeah. So the breaks, guys, just to wrap up, I think last week I won, even though we didn't have a vote. I think.
Why have you decided that you won?
Why have you decided you won? Is that where this is at now, yeah?
Huh?
Is that where it's at now, yeah?
I think my choices were fire still, but...
Well, where are your choices now? Huh?
Don't worry, man. I got something for you this week as well still, but yeah, the breaks, which has kind of replaced Musical Genius for the short term. We each take a turn to play a up-and-coming artist, preferably from the UK, but sometimes we might dip it over the pond.
Yeah.
So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I got a song, and depending on how much time we got left, I might even play another. I had a few songs in mind, but I wasn't 100% on what I was going for. But this song is a guy called Nick Brewer.
Love Nick Brewer. Oh my god, can I just tell you guys, I was in love with Nick Brewer.
Really?
I was like, honestly, I was so in love with Nick Brewer, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
From Alone With My Thoughts, the Alone With My Thoughts EP, and it was Alone With My Thoughts 2. Sorry, absolutely.
Yeah.
Got me through very dark times.
Nick
anyway,
Brewer,
go on.
I only found out about him about 2 years ago. So I was listening to a Barney artist, and then he had a track with Nick, and then was talking about his shit. And then I realised he'd actually been around for quite a while.
Long time.
So
he used to be called Brewster.
Yeah. And
that sounds very love and hip hop.
But yeah, he's from East London. He's quite a young dude. He's quite a good rapper. He's got a good flow and stuff. And I think the negative connotation he gets is sometimes they say he tries to sound black or something. When you don't, you can tell when you're just brought up in a certain area and around certain people, you pick up an accent or a style of talking or whatever. But this track, he's putting out a project, a Many Moods project. And this one is the prelude to the actual whole project. He's got another one that's produced by someone else, but he's gone over a beat. It's not an original one. It's a beat from a guy called Freddie Wakeem, who, I don't know if any of you remember him. He did an instrumental project a few years ago, and he's got a proper like jazzy hip hop soul sound, and it's over one of his beats. So yeah, this is Nick Brewer, Many Moods, the prelude.
Yeah, but I gotta know my own, I gotta be able to stand on my own decisions. Like, certain things I can't let people decide for me. Yeah, my world's different. How you mean? Life's cool, but my girl's missing. Throwing money down the well, I've been well wishing. Reviewing life through a screen, but couldn't tell a vision. He said he thought I was hard, but I could tell he didn't. But that's the world we live in, say whatever makes him listen. Yeah, so we taught lies to the face. Why does it matter? Written your life anyway. I wanna give him more life like I'm Drake. So don't show love if it's fake. Same Nick, different day, shine bright if it's great. All the time I've been sleeping on me, I've been awake, eating off my dinner plate. Still I'm looking thinner for real. Wish I could say everything that I'm feeling, but still, we ain't the time yet. Mindset's giving me chills. The world that we live in is ill, and I just really wanna change that. I ain't got a game plan. A voice in my head said, stay in your lane, man. Another part I didn't like, give him a break, fam. Look, you can do whatever, God put on your brain. Don't be slipping down the drain. That's what I needed to hear. Yeah,
that's that. It's Nick Brewer, Many Moods. apparently there's a whole project coming off the back of it, and I'm guessing he's probably going to bounce all over with the sounds of it. But yeah,
Shax, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I discovered this guy randomly, like a few.
You sound very downbeat, like.
Do I?
Yeah. I thought
is this some emotional song or something?
No, it's absolutely not. When you hear it, you're gonna be like, "Wow, I'm actually surprised by this song pick." No, but you know when you're going through like Twitter and you just see like a link, like, and I randomly clicked on a link and I was just like, "Wow, like, I like this guy." He's called. Oh yeah, might as well have.
Just put your Bluetooth on.
Yeah, he's called Confz.
Confz, did you say?
Yeah, he's called Confz, and there's been like a couple of tunes, and actually the second thing that I heard of him, there was a tune that he did with, you know, I played a tune by Jamila Barry last time. They had a song together like a few years back, and that was alright, and then yeah, cheers. The song that I'm gonna play is, it's called Whip It and Serve, yeah.
Alright. It's only about one thing then.
And I don't know, it proper grabbed me, and I was proper listening to it for 2 days, and I was just like, really, Shakira? Like, but yeah, anyway. So this is Whip It and Serve, let me see.
All that gun talk, I already heard it. Tried on the net but never in person. Time to be shutting down service. Bullets not them and ain't worth it. Whip it and burst it. Sounds like whipping excursion. Me and
To be fair, I can see where you're going to this shit.
Nothing they spit with no purpose. Take out the food, no scratch on a G. Okay, we looking like them I'm more furthest. Soon as the kids on a circus, the guys on a circuit. Brother is black. They would've never in a front door, so I had to come round from the back. Now I'm ripping up tracks. When they see the G in the streets, they try to get a pound of a back. No, do I know that? Me, I got weight on my shoulders. Try to stay away from the culprits. Want no involvement, you know this. Stay with my soldiers, so I stay with my closest. You ain't breaking my focus. I make sure to be aware of the vultures. The man don't do nothing for the culture. And if we see blue lights, there's a big quicker than holders. It's fully loaded.
And I think that he was tied in with like the new gen lot and that.
Okay. Started and the whole squad's full of knock. I'm like, listen, you don't put rounds in a smithing. Pigs don't like cause you didn't. Mind you, listen. Painting your wife, she isn't. 4 eyes guiding my vision. I'm like snoring's the only time that you move sense. Me, I go gym, bust a few sets. Hop on the mic at a stage show. What's up a few sets? Me, I don't go on like I'm too hep. But when I do press, gotta get wet from the juices. 1 session or 2 legs from my useless. I like a girl with their back. Like when you dash out the Durex. Me, I dead MC. I'm choosing from the east and he raps.
So as you can tell, the beat gripped me, and I was like, whoa. But I like the way he flows on it as well.
Yeah,
it's the new gen. Fucking front like you get trapped with the new gen. Whip it and serve it, you know that. Whip it and burst it. Whip it and serve it.
I like that.
That's vibesy still. It fits in line with the whole new gen sound as well.
Yeah.
Has anyone listened to the new gen album?
I flicked through it when it came out, but I was more interested in other stuff, so I haven't given it a full.
I've listened to a couple of tunes.
Take that risk. I could easily play that now, but I got something else for you guys. It's a group called PBGR. They've been around for quite some time, to be honest with you. There's 2 guys that go by the name of Crunch.
I feel like you got it the wrong way around, innit? PBGR. Play broke, get rich.
Get rich.
Yeah.
It's
PBGR.
PBGR. Sorry guys. I came across this.
It better not be the song I think it is.
I came across this about 2 years ago.
He's cheating now.
It's one of the standout. I like a lot of the stuff that they do, but it's probably my favourite offering by them. Shouts to those guys. I'm not sure how you're gonna link it up, Ash. Or do you have it on your phone? Easier to play it off your phone.
I can pull it up on my phone. Honestly,
Ash already knows what I'm drawing for.
It's 1999, isn't it?
I came in here and I was thinking, is there anything new that kind of obviously CB take that?
Man, this guy's been getting onto me for playing songs.
Yeah,
that
you
are older,
opened up the floodgates.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Is that what we're doing? Because is that what we're doing? Yeah.
They fit the criteria. They're from the UK as well, so that I think I've ticked all the boxes in terms of they're not signed, they're unsigned.
Alright,
you guys have opened the scope for me a bit.
No, exactly.
You have opened the scope.
If we knew shit before we started doing the podcast and it hasn't been known out, like it hasn't been put out there.
I don't think they're that massive.
No, they're not. Alright, so this song, 1996, 6 samples by the way.
It's got a Faith Evans sample.
Hey.
I'm not gonna lie, this tune's fucking hard.
Yeah, Bruce put me onto this time ago and I was like, boy, you know, like I was into it. You know when you just rinse a song time and time and time again.
Hold up.
As soon as he said that, what do you
Trying to make the neck glow, you can see the pain though. Looking in the eyes of a real type of Negro. Baby, on my next flow, El Presidente, rolling with my entree. If it's root beef, then a nigga never parlay. What? A nigga never talk about anything I make, I just never spend much. And anytime I step out, bad bitch step out. And nobody's still playing. It's just me, I'm a Nubian thing. I'm a smooth nigga, and smooth niggas run game. She want me on my R&B and I keep sweating shit. These other bitches don't like what they see. Cause anytime I step out, a bad bitch step out. Now they don't like what they see. They wish that they were riding with me, but baby, you're the right one for me. Cause anytime I step out, a bad bitch step out. I dedicate.
Yeah, it's PBGR.
Vibes.
They've got a few tracks, like not even that kind of vibe, but soulful.
I'd like to see what they do next. I think they had a project beginning of this year.
They put out two or three projects in the last like 3 years, I think.
But
what they called again?
PBGR.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Ash, you wanted to play one more, right?
I was just looking through to see if there's anything that I think would count in this. Give me 2 seconds.
You might need saving that for next week and next time still.
Bro, I've got plenty of songs.
You've got plenty of smoke for us.
I've got plenty of songs that you lot don't know about that are going to be worth listening to. So
as well, man.
Don't worry about me.
We need to.
So why you been holding on to them?
We need to make the transition over to Blitter, guys.
Yeah.
I can't because I'm an Android guy. They only cater for you iPhone people.
It's only an iPhone app at the moment.
I heard it's skying off over there, Shaq.
It's doing stuff. It's moving mad fast. Do you know, like back in the day, like how fast Twitter would move, where if you weren't there for like an hour, you missed bare shit.
Yeah.
That's how Blitter is right now. Like you blink and you miss everything. The one thing that I proper love about the app is there's a recent tabs where all the bleats go into that section. Yeah. So even if you don't follow people, you can literally see everything that's been posted.
Oh yeah.
So it helps you to find new people, and it's just I like that about it.
Yeah. I got another track for you. So this is by someone called Joyce, Wrice. She's done a few features on some of the producer-led albums recently. Proper R&B vibes from California. She's had a single called Good Morning out for a while, and there's like 5 remixes of it out. This is the later one by a guy called DR.MAD, who I think I talked about him on my blog like a year or 2 ago. But this is Good Morning, proper soulful vibes on it.
You got me looking at my watch every minute. Because I'm waiting on you. I said I'm waiting on you.
Rest. Good morning.
That was vibes' still.
I like that.
Told you. More tracks for your head top.
Whoa. Okay, Ash.
We'll be posting.
My jizzy on.
We'll be posting the links to all of those tracks
Yeah,
in the
definitely.
bio. Any announcements? No.
I'm good. No announcements here.
Beats, Rounds and Laugh pod.
Use the hashtag, guys.
Get
you might
involved
make
in
an
the
appearance
convo.
on Blitter just because, innit? Just for the culture still. So yeah, look out for that. YouTube, Beats, Rounds and Laugh podcast. Visuals going up. Yeah, that's it for this week, guys. Good.
We out of here.